After a much shorter hiatus between seasons, Mark Grayson returns for another round of superhero fights, relationship struggles, and family drama in Season 3 of. The season started off with a bang, with the most interesting character drama this outing has to offer right off the bat, with a conflict between Mark and Cecil. When they have a disagreement over whether or not to rehabilitate supervillains, Mark learns that there are contingencies in place should he ever be viewed as a threat, and let's just say, he doesn't take kindly to that revelation. The way Cecil sees it, Invincible is Earth's strongest hero now, and as such, is subject to government oversight, but Mark just sees it as paying for the sins of his father. We see Cecil's backstory, further illustrating why he feels the way he does, and establishes a theme present throughout the season: the idea that you can be a good person, or the person that saves the world. His desire for control over Earth's superpowered forces is completely understandable, and I found myself agreeing with his actions and thought process more than ever before this season. The fight between Cecil and Mark leads to the Guardians fracturing, and Invincible becoming an individual hero again, no longer part of a team or a government agent. What follows for the rest of the season is pretty typical affair for the show. Villain of the week stories peppered with little character moments, checking in with how all of our heroes attempt to balance civilian life with the weight of being a superhero. A unique element this go around is the developing bond between Invincible and his half-brother Oliver, whose rapid aging has led to his powers manifesting far faster than Mark's did. It's up to Invincible to train him not only how to effectively fight, but what it means to be a hero in the first place. The chemistry between the two brothers is very endearing, elevating Invincible to mentor status without losing the camaraderie of palling around with his little bro. Oliver simultaneously represents optimism and cynicism, embodying the hopefulness of a hero realizing his powers and ability to save and protect others, while also arguing for giving a permanent end to the bad guys. The debate between Mark and his younger brother on the ethics of executing their enemies reinforces the theme of moral good versus pragmatism, as Mark desperately resists killing, even when it's arguably necessary. The next relationship that receives the most focus this season is the burgeoning romance between Invincible and Adam Eve. After breaking up with Amber last season and being encouraged by an alternate Eve of the future to pursue her, Mark decides to have a go at another girlfriend, this time dating somebody that knows firsthand what the superhero lifestyle is all about. They decide to start a business together, profiting off of their powers by becoming a dedicated security force for a local prison. This storyline is a bit strange, as it doesn't really make sense that these two would put a price tag on actions you'd expect them to do for free as superheroes, let alone have need for money at all given Eve's power set. You'd think she could pretty much create anything her or Mark would ever need, but if you're gonna argue that she can't just build structures anywhere and would rather rent or buy a home, she could literally conjure briefcases of cash or gold bars or Fabergé eggs until their bank accounts both look like phone numbers. Which, while I'm on the subject, let me just say that I'm so tired of how little they do with Adam Eve's powers. She can control things on a molecular level, and yet she's almost always reduced to just firing pink laser blasts out of her hands and spawning pink bubbles on the battlefield. This season finally takes steps forward with her power set, even adding in a subplot where she begins attending college to study architecture. I appreciate the detail of showing a hero training their mind in addition to their body, and it makes sense to do so with her, a character whose power limitations are closely linked to their imagination, a la Green Lantern. I'm not completely sold on the romance between her and Mark yet, but I do believe them as a dynamic duo in the field, and the final battle of this season really gives her a chance to show off what she can do. But we'll get there. Other subplots are largely focused on romance as well, with Rex Blode and Ray finding love, Duplicate and Immortal getting engaged, and the relationship between Rudy and Monster Girl takes a meaningful step forward. Honestly, I wish we could have seen more from those two. Even Mark's mother, Debbie, gets a boyfriend, an unlucky bastard who has the universe's worst ex to worry about. Rex and Ray have a surprising amount of chemistry, giving me a relationship between two heroes I care about more than any other super couple. While most of the relationship drama in Invincible carries the weight of a soap opera, I found myself actually being moved by their courtship and the inevitable problems that arise from their superhero responsibilities. Also, I love Jason Mantzoukas, and while Rex has never been my favorite character on the show, this is by far his best season. Villains this year mainly consist of baddies from the past, with the new and more memorable being Powerplex and Conquest. Powerplex's episode feels like it came a season too late, as it's directly tied to season 1's finale. But even so, the episode still does a great job of highlighting the results of collateral damage in this universe. Having lost his sister and niece during Omni-Man and Invincible's infamous fight, he's made it his mission to take down Invincible to make him pay for his crimes. What? To be honest, his motivation is a bit flimsy, and Aaron Paul, who I'm normally a fan of, completely overacts this role, screaming every single line of his dialogue like he's watching his girlfriend get murdered from the back of a van. That being said, the episode does illustrate how grief can motivate our idea of justice, and delivers an emotionally shocking final moment that will surely traumatize Invincible and inform his character going forward. But let's be real, the best villain of the season, of the last 2 seasons, is Conquest. You've probably already seen his monologue, or at least parts of his dialogue from the final episode being memed all over the internet. If you haven't, I'm not going to spoil it here, but just know that this guy has some killer lines that paint the picture of a battle-hardened, emotionally stunted murderer. As the ultimate Viltrumite enforcer, he represents the most powerful foe that Mark has dealt with yet, resulting in one of the series' best fights to date. The battle between the two, and eventually Oliver and Eve as well, is badass and horrifying, drawing parallels with the devastation of the season 1 finale. It takes everything from all 3 of them to defeat him, and he's only significantly weakened once Eve activates a game-changing, powerful ult. Whereas only moments ago I was bitching about how they haven't let her go crazy enough with her powers, this move has me worried that she'll be too OP now, and borderline immortal, but time will tell where the writers go with this upgrade. Eve being able to revive herself is just another form of plot armor to throw on the pile in this show, but at least it looks fucking sick when she turns into pink Dr. Manhattan. There's a hint that straining herself this way will have permanent repercussions, but given that Invincible is the kind of show where both heroes and villains constantly survive when you think they're dead or just straight up get resurrected, I doubt this will lead to any significant consequences. That's actually one of my biggest complaints with this show, the lack of stakes when it comes to death. I still don't believe the most substantial death this season is going to stick at all, but we'll see. I know it's based on a comic book, a medium infamous for killing and reviving characters, but I think this adaptation would be a lot more emotionally effective if more of the characters stayed in the ground. It is a show that's building up to an intergalactic war, after all. This season once again ends on Mark taking a life, or so he thinks, a decision he's been actively avoiding, and it sets the stage for a more cruel and decisive version of Invincible to come. I'm glad that he'll be willing to get his hands dirtier, as I think this season did a strong job of showing what happens when villains at this power level aren't dealt with using lethal force. This is also a great way to further expand the drama between Mark and Cecil, as time and again shows Cecil would rather save villains' lives if he believes they can still be of use to him. Why the fuck would he think he can imprison and interrogate Conquest? That's a disaster waiting to happen in Season 4, I'm sure. Speaking of Season 4, the final minutes of the finale give us a tease of plenty to come. But what's strange to me about this show is I enjoy it when it comes around, but I'm not exactly eagerly anticipating any of these individual storylines, so much as I just want to see the development of the Viltrumite War. We get a tease of the parasitic aliens returning with vengeance, Angstrom Levy preparing a tour of the multiverse for Pinhead, Battle Beast being rescued from the vacuum of space, and even catch up with Demon Detective Man, who we haven't seen since Season 1. I'm sure those will make for fun episodes, but I do think this show suffers from pacing issues, and constantly bringing back villains that Mark and company have already defeated, just to inevitably get their asses kicked, leaves me with an unsatisfied been there done that feeling. I think that's why Conquest felt like such a breath of fresh air for me, because he was a new threat both in terms of power and story progression. Facing a villain like him felt like the next chapter in Invincible's story. Overall, this season was a significant step up from Invincible's sophomore slump. The character work done on Mark and Eve in particular was much better. Oliver's training throughout provides a compelling addition as a sidekick that is on track to be even more powerful than Invincible. The fights were as entertaining and gory as ever, particularly the last one, and the emotional payoffs were more resonant. I still can't believe I actually gave a shit about any of the romance subplots, as they've always been the weakest element of the show. But I did this time, even though they still take up too much screen time. The show still hasn't captured me the way it did with its initial run, but I'll be back next year to see where they take Invincible next. Invincible Season 3 gets a... Wait, there's something I forgot. I just can't seem to put my finger on it. Oh yeah, fucking Omni-Man. I almost completely forgot about him like the writers seemingly have. When this show first started, I was hooked by the ending of the first episode. Omni-Man instantly became a badass new take on evil Superman, making Homelander look like a little bitch in the span of a single hour of television. Having a character that powerful with sinister motivations, as the father of our protagonist, was dramatic gold, ending in a finale that is still the best fight and best episode of the series to date. Since then, he's only briefly appeared in both subsequent seasons as a reminder that he's out there, but offering little in the way of moving the character forward. His appearance in season 2 was primarily to introduce Oliver, tease the idea that he and Mark can and will fight alongside one another against the Viltrumites, and get himself landed in space prison. In season 3, the only thing he does is break out of said prison with Alan the alien. It's a great episode, my favorite of the season, but part of the high I felt by the time the credits were rolling was because I was excited that he could once again become an active part of the story. Sadly, this would be the last we'd see of him for yet another year. I know the show is called Invincible, but Mark's relationship with his father is integral to who he is as both a person and hero. In fact, Omni-Man is a character that has so much influence on our central cast of characters, not just his family. It's become baffling how little they've utilized him. Even if he doesn't return to Earth until season 12, here's hoping we'll at least get to see more of the show's best character and his space adventures next time. Invincible season 3 gets a Battle Beast Highness.
Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you specifically. Thank you.